one hand on belt buckle, one hand on tailbone. Okay, and this is the really funky one. I'm just gonna think about tipping my tailbone back and then tilting my tailbone forward. And just start to see, like for me, when I tilted forward, I got crack, 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 crack. Does it feel stuck going into flexion or extension? Is it moving pretty easily? Am I able to move the pelvis without having to move the hips around? Both of you are doing a good job with that. So just keep rolling back and forward. We might check in with this again as a little test after some low back stuff, just to see how, again, in flexion or extension, things start to feel a little smoother. After one or two more little rotations, we're just gonna tuck tail up, and I'm gonna lock kind of belt buckle up to the belly button. Rebend those knees slightly, chin in, and just start to get nice and tall. So from here, I'm trying to keep that pelvis kind of tucked underneath me to lock my hips in place, so I'm not starting to cheat from the hips themselves. So from here, we're just gonna go arms out to the side. I really like to think here I'm trying to push daggers into the wall with my middle fingers. Chin is in, and then watch really slowly without moving the hips, no Shakira. I'm just gonna shift from the rib. Not dropping yet, I'm just shifting over. It's really small. I'm gonna shift back to center, and then shift to the other side. Notice if that feels a little stuck for me, my left side's super adhered together, so it's a lot more work for me to kind of keep that honest. We're just gonna shift center, side, center, side, center, side. And just like we did with the pelvic tilts, again, can we start to just make this feel a little smoother? Yeah. Shouldn't feel like much. That's actually really perfect. That's perfect.
Are both or either of you coming to Saturday at Eldo? Everybody not? No?
Most likely not.
Most likely not. Yeah, that's
Yeah, rule it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just figured we can do
Some of that stuff.
some of that stuff will probably be good for you, and then you can get some exposure to it.
So after our last one of these, just go ahead and relax for a second, shake off your arms and get a little tired. We're gonna go ahead and advance this, and we're gonna go into translation with a little bit of side bend. So again, middle fingers up, tucking tail. Segmentally, I'm gonna go one side, and then I'm gonna drop over the side and fall off to the other side. Back to that nice translated position, center, and then I do the other side. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Again, being disciplined about not just dropping back to the center to keep that level of control. One little thing that I really like here too is as I bend over to the side, I like to think again, reaching, so I'm lengthening through that sideline. And the way that I do that, that helps me really feel good on the low back and hip itself, is the thing about dropping that pocket down and away from my shoulder. Exactly.
Try to be aware of the translation and then the side bend, and then unside bending and untranslating.
Yeah.
Not a muddy combo.
That's kind of the tendency that I have, everybody has, is they'll come out of it and they'll just kind of drop back to center. Again, come out, keep the translation, shift, and then go to the other side. Just go another 30 seconds here. If you want to get your feet a little wider, check in with your pelvis again. That's a nice little thing that, again, as we get into some of the other Eldo, is just making sure that that initial rooted position feels pretty stable and secure. You're going to fall out of it, that's totally fine. Beautiful. Go ahead and once you come back to the center, mop up both sides so you're not uneven, and then just shake it out and relax, okay? So we should feel a little freer, maybe through rib cage, thoracic cage, maybe through the hips. Let's go ahead and do one more, and then we'll get into the work today. So I'm just gonna take you from a wider stance to a little bit of a narrower stance. So just kind of split the diff. Same idea, toes in, knees bent, pelvis tucked. I'm gonna go ahead and start on whichever side you like. Let's just start, you mirror me. So I'll put right arm down, and then left arm's gonna drape over. Okay, again, if this feels really tight, you can back off a little bit. You don't need to be, what is it, Vogue, Madonna, or whatever it is. Okay, but inside hand's gonna come to the inside, kind of closer to my zipper. I'm gonna pull fingernails back and then rotate thumb so that inside of my forearm is again pointing towards the elbow. From here, tailbone tucked, knees bent, I'm gonna start to push down with this down arm. And then again, my second point, I'm gonna give you 3 to think about. So here's 1, 2 is lifting from the elbow, and 3 is dropping that opposite hip pocket down. So again, hand pushes down, elbow lifts up, left pocket drops down and away. So what we can start to do here is, again, this is our first chance to get into this idea of length decoaptation. So when you inhale, think about loading. When you exhale, we're gonna get long. Inhale. Exactly. We're gonna hold this guy for another 10. Trying to advance it, lifting up and away from the belt buckle, from the belt line. 5, 4, 3, 2, and slowly come out of it, shake off. So a couple good lessons in this as we go into a go, it'll just help. One is when we come out of these positions, just slowly under control. You're putting yourself into such a hyper stretch position, we don't need to rebound out of it. That's where things kind of go wrong. The other one is, again, once I get into that position, we can start to set up for the other side here. So now right arm over the head, left arm down. I want you to think about kind of treating your body in lines. So again, line, point A from elbow, point B to my hip, and I can stretch those lines in opposite direction at the same time. As opposed to just thinking reaching up or pulling down. Think again, the fundamental principle concept, educational component of Eldoa is using opposite tensions to rip and pull things apart. Hopefully not rip, but pull things apart, right? So
Slight ripping is acceptable.
Slight rip. Hand in, arm over. Again, palm's gonna flip away from the ear. Feet a little bit narrower, knees bent, tailbone tucked. Again, 1, down, 2, elbow up, 3, hip pocket down. And for me on this side, I get a bunch of compression in that opposite side hip, so this feels very nice. Stay. Drop this down. That's it right there. Now try to mimic that same sort of action. I want you to exhale to do it, and use the exhale to kind of push it down. Like we're powerlifting, but instead of just applying it. Yeah, that's it.
Beautiful. Now shorter.
And see if you can't advance this position every time you create a new breath cycle. So I'm going to inhale, I'm going to exhale, get a little bit more length, and then restart the entire process, holding the length that I just fought for with the last exhalation. So you find over the course of like 10 breaths, I've gotten, 20 to 25% more length just from following the breath cycle. Final 10. Big reach here. 9, 8. If you're starting to cold sweat a little bit, that's good. 5, 4. Last little bit of length. 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. Hoochie mama. Good. People pay a lot of money for that head rush, you know what I mean? You can go to Staples Center, get a whip it after. All right. It's on camera. All right, so what we'll do is that's just our easy warm-up. Again, we'll do that every time. Just notice how things feel. It should feel a little bit better. And then I think the thing that we care about more than getting the body warmed up is, again, some of those fundamental rules we're not going to lose. We're just going to build on them. So remember the things about relaxation, using breath to lengthen, that idea of opposite points of tension, and then more so than anything, you guys did a really good job of just being specific and being in charge of the position throughout the movement, not just letting it fall apart and kind of get lazy or sloppy. The more high defined we can be in this, the better it's going to work for us. Okay.
One question though.
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're keeping our pelvis tucked, and then we have to drop this hip. So
Mhm.
it kind of loses the tuck a little.
Yeah,
That's a good question, and it is a confusing cue, which is
as we maintain this tuck, as we maintain that, when I say drop, it's more of admittedly a feeling exactly than it is something super technical, which is as this is dropping away, without it being some massive movement. All of this stuff really in mobility is micro movements. So as I'm here and I'm holding this position and I'm trying to drop this pelvis away, that gives me more space to then lift up and away, rather than necessarily this. Does that make sense? Kind of?
So it's more of a like.
I would say
It's
this
It's
an
more
is,
intention.
lengthening, right?
It's just more like
It's more like.
and it's
Yeah.
more of an
Think
intention.
of your hips as going.
Right,
Correct.
exactly.
Admittedly, this, especially the Eldoa world, it's
It's
a
an
lot of
intention, not an
visualization.
action all the time. right?
Yeah, it's more
I'm intending
visualization.
to drop this down, but that doesn't mean I'm going to fully drop it down.
Yes,
Right?
yes.
Because some
And-
of the stuff, it's impossible to really move it. Like, it's like disconnect your femur from your hip socket. Okay, how do I do that? But if you imagine it, it'll give you more perceived space and just be able to visualize what you're doing. So,
Yeah, it's all to that point. It's the visualization of the thing. When we do the cars, pails and rails, that stuff, that's very clear what the action is. Like, I'm hip pails and rails is push down or lift up. You might not be able to because of the position you're in, but that is a very clear thing to try. So, to that point, we're going to do some stuff for the hips, and we'll try at least one rib Eldoa today. We'll try one. The thing about rib Eldoas is they're incredibly physically demanding, and they're very weird and hard to feel. And if you don't really have much of a rib issue, you're not going to necessarily feel it. But it is useful to at least experience what it is like, and you might at least minimum feel some breathing expansion. So just something to look forward to. So working towards the hips first, though, I just want everyone to check in after that. How does the low back feel? Whether you're dealing with something or just sort of morning tightness, is there any stiffness, any discomfort, one side or the other?
Feels a little woozy, I'd say.
Oh, woozy.
I don't know.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more?
It just kind of feels, like it's been sort of like contorted in a few different ways. Not
Okay.
bad,
Just
not
expose
good,
just
but like just kind of like it's
just some
been
stuff.
like the hips were kind of pulled apart, so it's just kind of
Okay, terrific. So we're gonna kind of build on that. I assume for you it's maybe a little bit better, but
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, it definitely gives me a little bit
it's a
of
good punk rock.
Relief.
riff.
Terrific.
Woozies, woozy hips.
So
Good
we're
band name.
That's
yeah,
what it is.
exactly. So we're going to do two things for the hips that are first one's going to be sort of stabilizing, but it really is opening, and then we're going to really try to create expansion in the hip joint. So this is called, I don't have a good name for it, I call it a salamander plank. It's the best name I've come up with. There are a couple levels to get to it because it may just be physically too demanding to properly hold the position. And then I'll show you what the highest level is, which is you turn it into a crawling pattern like we do with the bear crawl. So the way this works is laying flat first. You're gonna get one arm at about a 90-degree angle, your fingers lie on your center line, and then in front of you. You probably can go a little bit closer to you. This is a little bit better for the effect of the exercise, but it can be a lot of pressure on the shoulder. So if you need to come in a little bit, especially after benching yesterday, you're welcome to. Then the opposite leg is basically doing the same thing at the bottom. My foot is basically in line with my center line, 90-degree bend, and I'm here. I'm going to use my other hand and my other leg to help myself up to here. Then my arm goes here, up, and this might be plenty. But ideally we get here. And while here, you're doing the best you can to try to maintain anti-rotation. Meaning, not this, but rather here.
Again, if we put a yoga block on Matt's back, he'd be able to maintain the stability of it. That's another good way to think of it, right?
So, level one is helping yourself with your arm and your leg, your knee and your arm. Level two, straight leg. Level three, level four. And you can hear in my voice how hard that becomes very quickly. But what this is going to be doing, as you can see, is I'm putting all this pressure through my pelvis at that angle, and then how my spine is having to anti-rotate to hold position. With however your low backs especially feel right now, we're gonna do this. We're gonna do a couple rounds on either side, about 15-second holds, which will probably be plenty. And if this goes well, I'll show you the crawling pattern, which becomes pretty nice. So, you'll also discover very quickly, one side is significantly stronger than the other. I can talk a little bit more freely here. I have an easier time holding my position. It's just an easier side. That's very common. So, any questions on that? Make sense? Give it a shot.
It's beautiful. There's two of us, so why don't we just work with
Yeah.
each other right now?
So, on your bellies, pick one arm, whatever you want to start with.
You go off. Go on there, just because there's a side pressure on that. It's
Yeah, feel free to use the yoga mat to whatever will be most comfortable for you.
Start laying down. I want you to start. Is it elbow?
So leg totally flat for me.
Exactly.
And then let's
Now
start this arm
here.
about.
And move your hand out.
Okay. And then left leg will
Back, and
basically
then
be
your
your.
toes out a little bit further
Yep.
away.
Yes. Yep. Perfect.
Good.
So
Here,
now use your
tuck the tail. We're gonna
hand
snap
here,
the toes.
and
We get
these
this thing
toes.
straight in the
Just get yourself up.
and then tuck your toes and back with the straight leg and just lift.
Good. But keep this knee on the ground. This leg. This is going to be your. These are going to be your
these-
plank.
This point and your
Or-
elbow are your sleeve.
Now,
That's what
you remove
So
this.
push through all 4 points right now.
Good. Can you get this a little higher?
Yeah, keep this knee there.
Yep.
Bend up a little bit.
Good. Can you lift your foot?
This is- There we go. Good. Okay, so hold that. So
That's good.
bring this knee out a little bit further.
Good. A little higher up here.
Okay. Bend for me.
And
And then come out to the side. Plank down hard. Now
Alright,
from
so the
here,
other side.
good. Try to keep this knee down and straighten that arms. There you go.
The
Okay, hold
leg
that.
that is
Good.
down is
That's
probably
it. Now we'll square off chest and think again for you
Right up
left
there.
elbow
Good.
and
Now
right
you're
knee are the main points of pressure and loosen the pressure in the right hand left.
Use your right arm to help leg here to help yourself.
4,
Good.
3,
Keep this knee down. This is your point.
2,
Good.
and relax. Good.
Now,
Very nice.
this.
That was actually a pretty good position.
Good.
So does that make sense again? The bent knee and the bent
Good.
elbow,
Now,
those are
this
the
off the
two
ground.
points of stability. The other two are just there to help. Right? So as you start more advanced in this, you can start to take
There you
pressure
go.
off the box, the straight arm to straight.
Good.
Okay? Switch to the other side. Let's try it on that.
Hold.
I want to just start on that side too. This shoulder. Okay. Bend that knee a little bit more. And create more of an angle.
Weird.
Heel towards the tail. Pull that heel. Good. Now from here. Just smooch. Good. Help yourself up with the opposite hand. Now where you work. So out. Good. There you go.
Now
Nice.
you feel what?
Now again. Take
Now
out the right leg and your left.
Yeah. That feeling
Put
that comes
all
in.
the pressure in your left knee.
Maximal tension.
Right.
Mixes in the abs.
Nice, Steven. Good.
5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. Very nice.
All right. Good, you two. So we're gonna do this. I'll let y'all rest. We're gonna do this one more time now that we've understood the skill a little bit more. So whether you are able to lift your arm and leg
Yeah.
doesn't matter as much.
Job for mobility.
Whether you're able to or not, what I want you to be thinking about is that hand and leg that should be off the ground, even if you have to keep it there, is lightening. So instead of 50% and 50%, it's 80% and 20%, or 90-10. And then additionally, I think the other piece that I think really is helpful is really focusing on the knee and driving through the knee to get you up. So as you're here and you're holding and you're fighting, really trying to push down through the knee, because that helps me even out my pelvis. And if you want to make it harder, we bring the arm out. And if you are able to get your off arm and leg off the ground, here's the crawling pattern version of this, which I have been playing around with and find to be very helpful. So, up, get yourself situated, hold for 5. This is very nice. This is very easy, this part. But what I like about the crawling version is that when you set yourself up from the floor, it may not be super dialed in, but when you start to crawl a little, it like puts you in the right position. I don't know why it does that, it just does. Your body figures it out. So, you may not be ready for the crawling yet, and that's totally fine. But if you want to give that a shot, there you go. So, we'll do one more attempt on either side. Remember, the knee that is working is pretty bent, pretty high up towards the shoulder, rather than down here. And then that arm is similar. All right, so give that a shot. 15-second hold, or if you want to try the crawl, try 3 steps per side. Left hand grab.
So knee on the ground.
Really think about pushing down from here.
Right knee on the
Yes, good. Can you lift this? Yes, keep pushing down here. There you go. Now, if you want to try the crawl, or you want to shoulder, it's totally fine. You can reach up with that left arm and that left foot. Ah, there you go.
Like on the edge of
Good
the
pressure into the.
Yeah, it's not the most comfortable, admittedly.
Now try to lift this up.
And if you want to
That's
just
it right
do
there.
the holds, that's perfectly fine. Good. Can you get that left hip a little higher, Steven? Left hip. There you go, there you go, there you go. Beautiful. Good adjustment.
5,
All right, it's the other side, mate.
4,
Or you try the.
3,
Yeah,
down
okay.
to
Yeah.
the step, 2, and relax. Good. That was really nice on that side. Okay, so let's try the other side.
Should feel like you're putting a lot of work into your hip and your abs especially. Like it's a super intense core exercise. Good. And then lift and level out that pelvis. Nice, Nate. That's perfect. Good.
Pressure on the right elbow.
Good. Fight for it. 10 more seconds.
Right.
5, 4, 3, 2, and bring it on. Good. Nice.
Yeah, having a little bit of cushion for that knee
Helps.
helps quite a bit.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. If discomfort is the thing that it's like,
well, on this side, like I was like 50% on, 50% on, so like kept on.
yeah, you're like, I don't want to.
Like I felt okay, and like
That's what the
Yeah.
good for.
Yeah. All right. So did anyone notice one side much stronger than the other?
I'd say like moderately.
Moderately?
Yeah. I mean,
It
yeah.
usually just feels like one side you just feel like more competent in.
Yeah, maybe that's
It's
a better way
easier
to
to
describe
hold
it.
it, you
Yeah,
know?
just the stupid side versus the smart
Yeah,
side.
it's like, oh, that side knows what to do. Kind of carries the load a little bit better.
So, having done that, we asked the question, how did the lower back feel after just a little warm up? How does it feel after doing that?
Feels good. I feel a little, relieves a little bit more of the
Yeah.
tension.
Relieves a little bit more?
Yeah.
I feel a little bit more connected now.
Yeah.
More connected. Great, that is precisely what we were going for. And nailed it. The concept of this tool and where to use it, and the reason why I'm highlighting the lower back stuff is this is especially pertinent to low back stuff, but there's a shoulder aspect to it and obviously the hip aspect. But really what it is if we have an injury or we're just tweaked or we're just feeling a little off, like after being in the car for so long, my pelvis felt very off and then getting upstream effects into my low back, is we're putting tension through here, so we're kind of re-stitching things together, which creates some space in the back. And then also with putting force in the hip in that open position, we're starting to reorient the pelvis. That's going to be a future conversation about how do we manage the pelvis, which is a little different than the hips. Hip cars are working the hip joint. How we move the pelvis and problems or pathologies that come out of getting stuck in patterns there is a whole rabbit hole to go down and worthwhile. But there's a fair amount of, like, if we want to do Eldoas for the pelvis, how do I even do an Eldoa before I take it into a super subtle joint? With pails and rails, that gets a little bit tough to be doing like pails and rails for my SI joint, so that doesn't quite work the same. So it gets just very funky of how we get into it. This is a somewhat simple way of getting into that stuff. So just initially there. So we've stabilized. Now I want to get into the hip joints a little bit. Again, we'll check in with the low back when we work the hips. So we're going hip joints, not working pelvis quite yet. So this is going to look like it's not much, but it's surprisingly powerful. So you're going to have a seat and a bit of a straddle. You're more than welcome to use your arms to help keep you upright. You do not need to be doing an ab exercise here. And so we'll go one leg at a time. And what we're doing here to help World from Eldoa is we pull the toes back and we start by turning in. Now, from here, I'm actively reaching, in this case, I'm working my right leg, my right heel out and away. When you do that, it should feel like something is happening in the hip joint. Like maybe it's getting a little crampy or just like you're trying to create space. Once you're there and you're really reaching that leg out, internal and external. And we just go like this. And with each of these little rotations, again, trying to make it come from the upper thigh bone, I keep reaching out a little farther, a little bit more. I'm not walking my hip over. It's just a subtle micro movement from here where I'm trying to create space. And these little rotations will help relax the tissue in there. And I can keep working that leg out. Try to be aware of pulling those toes back the whole time and just keep reaching that heel out and away like you're trying to unscrew your hip socket.
The other little fun observation here is, especially for most of us guess, when we go internal rotation, is it the hip that's moving or is it the knee and the foot that are starting to take over? That's just a cool little observation for a lot of things.
Yeah, I always like to think there's a laser pointer on my thigh or and shoulder cars on my bicep, and that's what's trying to shift. So let's go for another about 5 seconds here, keep reaching it out. And then bring it to a stop. And situate yourself and see if your legs are a little different. My right leg's about a half an inch to an inch longer right now as I've relaxed all that stuff in the pelvis. In the hip joint. So let's do it on the other leg. Again, maintain the same position, pull those toes back, reach that heel out, and then we do these little rotations. So just keep trying to create space and reaching that foot forward more and more. And this is a good check-in as you're doing these rotations. Am I running into any blocks in my hip? Is my internal rotation a little restricted? My external rotation a little restricted?
So that lengthening allows you to get deeper into these shapes.
And so from an intensity standpoint, this shouldn't be particularly horrible. You might get a little crampy, a little weird stuff in the hip joint itself that you're working, but it shouldn't be like the salamander plank where you start sweating in the first 2 seconds. Go for another 10 seconds or so. 5. And bring it to a relax. All right. Let's hop up again real quick. How does that feel? Does that feel any different?
I think for me, it's just the sitting up part.
What do you mean?
I just don't have like a lot of like flexibility in the hamstring, so like I wasn't able to really
Get as far
get
with
as
it?
deep as I probably should have been, but it feels good.
Okay.
That one and the legs.
A little longer. So I hope it's a little bit of space in here. So with that in mind, the concept we're working towards here, amongst what we do with a lot of different hip stuff we do, is can our hip move better, particularly in a walking pattern, where when my leg is trying to go behind me and I have to work into hip extension, am I restricted and therefore I cheat through the low back? Is my gait pattern this, where it's from the hip, or is it this, where it's from the low back?
Or to the point of the salamander plank, is it this?
Right.
I'm not going to use my lumbar spine to twist to get into that position.
To that point, often it's not just extension that happens, is I get stuck and then that, precisely to Sean's point. And that doesn't feel like much when I'm just doing this here.
But you load it.
load it or do 10,000 steps, okay, now we start to run into some
And
issues.
then at the end you go, man, why is my back feel like shit after that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, just a thought there. So, now we're going to work into one hip elbow. This is going to take a bit of time to even feel and figure out what you're doing. Well, I'll let you sit in it for a little while so you can start to just try to capture it. Those little rotations we just did will be a tool to help create a little bit of that space. Okay? So, let me just talk about it first and then we'll do this. So, the way we have two options that we can do. We can either do the proper half kneeling position, which opens a little bit more of the back side of the hip, or we can do this open position, which opens a bit more of the front side of the hip. I'm going to have us do this one today, because I think it's just a little bit easier to feel. If it goes well, then we have time, we'll do the other one too. So, how this works, it's a little funky, but the arms, which will be like this, as we do the reaching, is giving us a little extra. And we'll keep the arms in there, but I want you mostly focusing on what you're doing with the hip, okay? So, what we'll do, the way we'll get into this, is you open up this leg as much as you can before the pelvis has to turn, before you run out of space. So it might be here, you might be able to get here, but it's certainly not this. I'm gonna go all of that, sure. So, from here, in this position, tucking the pelvis so that we're locking this down. The idea here is I'm trying to anchor everything except for this, right here. So that as I go through the work and I reach this leg out and away, this is starting to open.
Just like our translations, right? Tucking the tailbone to lock something in position. Same idea.
And as I reach this away, what we don't want is this anchor coming with. We want this anchor to be stuck here so I have something to pull against.
Again, if Matt was
Okay.
doing this and I were to like put my knee here,
I should
we
believe it.
stay contacted with it the entire time.
As I put more pressure this way. So what I'll have you do before we bring the arms involved is you'll put your hand here and you'll put your hand here, precisely for that point, to help feel that expansion. Now, the actual effort is two things. It is reaching out and away this way and trying to push this bone forward a little. Doesn't look like much, it certainly isn't. But when doing it, you'll feel something hopefully in the hip. Then when we bring the arms involved and start reaching, this way, start reaching, this gives us a little extra lift vertically, so we can create an anchor point vertically. We're creating one down and out, but we also get vertical. And as I put more of this this like rubber band tension, I should hopefully feel like I'm creating even more action through the hip. Over a little bit of time, as this relaxes and opens up, we'll be able to get more open and even more specific, okay? So, best way to get into this, I think, is start half kneeling, tuck the pelvis here like we would in a couch stretch, and make sure that your weight is stacked over this down leg, not forward, okay? Now, walk that foot out until you start to feel some tension, probably in the adductor, but before your headlights shift over. So maybe here to start, okay? Just be honest with us. Now, once we've got the leg in position, tuck that pelvis hard again, and even in doing that, you might feel some space in the front side of this working leg. Now, before we get the arms involved, put one on the knee, put the other one on the hip, and just to initially set this up, push your hip this way a little. We're kind of overstacking this side, okay? Now from here, start trying to, without letting this side move, reach this knee out and away this way. Doing that effort should feel like something is starting to happen. Yes, a little something? Okay, good. So as we keep working this, check back in with the pelvis, am I maintaining any tuck? Also start thinking, get this knee out and back. Okay, so we're not caving in, we lose tension there. Now, from here, arm up, arm forward. So we start reaching this arm forward, we start reaching this arm up without losing this action. Sean and I will start coming around to help you with that action. And then, the final big effort, as I want to reach that knee out and away, trying to get that knee over the toes, you're maybe going to move a millimeter. And then I want to push this femur forward. When I do that, it should feel like something's happening in the front side of the hip. And then I just keep that effort going, and we'll come around and try to make this worse for you.
Absolutely.
Can we get more of the time? Good. Now,
Keep that. Keep going.
more pressure. Good. And
That's it right there. Good. Big breath in. Now all at the same time. Forward, outside, side.
Yes. Good. Now push this out.
Roll away from that in.
There we go. Good. Up.
Big pressure.
Now.
Yeah, that's it. Good.
This hip. Forward. Is this knee.
Yeah. Going in.
Good. Breathe and work. Should feel like we've gotten something going on in that hip. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
Don't know what exactly.
Good. You keep this going here. So pushing my hand here. Get it right over here. Yes. Good. As you drive this hip.
Same like you can. Pulls up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Keep breathing. Keep creating that space. Another 10 seconds.
And again, get back to your breath. The more relaxed you are in this, the more it's going to kind of work for you.
5, 4, 3, 2, slowly come out of that. So, before we do the other side, hop up, see how that hip feels, see how the low back feels, give it a little walk to see where we're at there. Should feel wobbly.
You feel like you have like a wooden block on one foot and nothing on the other. So you're going to walk around like this a little bit right now.
And back to this conversation about gait, which we mentioned before, and this idea of being able to go into proper hip extension. As you walk around, does that feel any different on one leg versus the other? I know that's a sort of, it's a somewhat pedantic topic to be talking about gait pattern. It is, it's annoying, I agree. To speak more specifically to the work we do in here, is like a kettlebell swing. That is also a pretty significant amount of hip extension, where if we're restricted here, we get it a little extra to the low back, which may not be a problem in the first 10 or the first 80 reps, but it might be eventually a problem in the next 200, eventually. So, just something to pay attention to.
I think
So-
also like walking or your gait pattern is the lift that you execute the most in your life. So that's another thing. Like you might do, I don't know, 1 million kettlebell swings in your life. Compare that to how many times you're gonna walk in your life. Like the odds stack pretty favorably in getting that a little bit more succinct, right? So
Yeah.
hopefully.
And additionally, a thing to pay attention to is whether baseball is a thing you engage in, or playing a guitar, or something that is very one-sided, is the just natural efficiencies, but at the flip side of that coin, the restrictions that occur from just doing one pattern a bunch. Throwing a baseball. All of this and all of this opening here, almost never do it on the other side. All of this rotation and whip, creating this pattern, what does that do to my hip here and hip here that I'm not doing on the other side? And again, I'm not trying to say, hey, go teach yourself how to play guitar with your offhand or learn how to throw a baseball with your offhand, but recognize these patterns that you do that we might want some sophisticated exercises to resolve. This is where these tools come in. So let's do the other side. Again, we start in this half kneeling position. Make sure your weight is pretty well situated on this back leg. Walk that front leg out and open as far as you honestly can before the pelvis starts shifting. Less is more probably. Then from here, give yourself the awareness. Hand on the hip, hand on the knee. You can also try, going back to the rotations we practiced before, these just like little micro rotations as you start reaching out with the knee, just to give yourself a little extra space.
And then you kind of let that go once you situate, pushing this knee out this way, reaching out with the knee this way, and keeping this pelvis stuck. Once you've captured that reaching effort, thinking pushing this hip forward, so that opens up on the front side. Check back in, have I lost my pelvis? Where's my weight shifted as I do all of this, as I keep creating space? And then we can get the arms involved as we reach forward with the arm in front of us, reach up with the arm that's vertical. Switch arms, yeah, good. Now, as you reach with the arms and lift with the ribs, trying to create more space vertically, can we also keep in mind these two pieces? Keeping this hip out this way, keeping this knee driving this way, and then projecting that hip forward.
That's it right there. Ooh, yeah, nice.
Try. Just try. Yeah, try. Yeah, that's the visual. So pushing my fingers here. Good. Make a little more pressure here. And then while keeping both of those, reaching it all the way to that side. And then pushing it.
There you go, good, yeah.
Space. That's what we're trying to do. This way. And then press it.
Try to hold it. One side may be
Breathe.
brutal than the other. You're a little fatigued now. So again, don't need to be 100%, just breath. And ownership of the position is going to do more than trying to force it at this point.
Breathe, visualize creating space in that hip and the front side of that hip. Breathe, use the exhale. And now try to expand it more. More effort on the arms, more effort with the knee, more awareness of keeping that down hip in the right space, the right spot. Go for about 15 more seconds. 10, 5, 4, 3, 2, and relax. Looking at
We're
the
gonna have a
clock.
whole generation of past little leaguers who are going to be out there doing hip elbows.
Bryce would be the most happy
Yeah.
if we could make that happen.
Be like, oh shit, my shot, we did it.
So, how do we utilize this tool properly? What we do not want to do after doing that for about a minute a long hold is then go and squat and swing and deadlift and put a bunch of force through that hip. What we want to do is walk around and enjoy that new space. And then a few hours later, maybe we can lift. Or even, probably more ideally, the next day. Often what they say in the Eldoa world is the best time to do this is right before bed, because then as you sleep, that space expands even more and you get a little bit more ownership there. And then the next day in the morning, if you're lifting in the morning, then you've created that space, you've sort of relaxed into it, and now we can put some force through it. But hopefully what you feel with this new space, if you are feeling that at all, is that were I to ask you to put more force in through that joint, you have more space for it. The good news about that is that means like more range of motion. We have more space we can travel. However, that means we're now traveling into new ranges of motion where we may have a lot more weakness than we would ever expect. And we have to rebuild strength in that new space.
And the tissue just might not be strong enough to handle it.
Yeah, like in your restricted space, you could do a 315-pound deadlift. In your new space, you are more comfortable feeling more balanced, but you're not ready to do 315. You
like
might be
maybe
back to
185.
185.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right, you might be relegated back. But then we've removed the ceiling, so we can push a little more. So that's a hip Eldoa. Now we're going to try a rib Eldoa. Bare minimum, this is a good ab exercise. Bare minimum. Okay? So I will show you what the posture looks like, and then we will do our best. If, as you're doing this, we see or you feel very much immediately that the balance factor of this, you can't really hold it, we'll give you a bench to brace on a little bit, which will help. So we start in a similar pattern here, and then we take our other leg and we walk it out to the side like this. Whole foot is down on the ground, and in the best world, we have toes forward. But again, we're trying to keep this pelvis as square as possible. Then from here, we're going to tilt over. For our purposes, basically as far as you can. Ideally, it's basically a straight line from shoulder to hip. For this one that we're doing. There's one that's a little high, there's some that are a little higher up. Even me just doing this, and this outside of my hip working to keep me up, gets a little crampy. So, fair warning. So, once we get here, the rib that we're working is going to be on the down side. So this arm comes forward, and what we're doing is we're keeping our center as that shoulder blade projects forward and reaches forward and pulls all this meat forward. What we don't want is rotation. That's not the point. I'm staying centered and I'm reaching forward. Then this arm, this is how we dictate what rib we're working. We're just going to go straight up for today. So it's going to be straight up towards the sky, straight out here, and really trying to hold the center line. Keep your head in a position that's comfortable. We don't want to be craning. And then from here, I reach with my hand, I reach with my other hand, and I reach out through my heel. Just breathe and work. Just hang out. Okay? We'll do that for a minute, then same thing on the other side. So, what you're keeping account of is mostly the rotation, and then active with the arms and out through the leg. Okay? Good. Once you got that leg straight, tilt over. A good general rule of thumb is you can almost touch your fingertips to the floor. That's pretty good. That's a pretty safe bet if you're pretty close. Close enough. Good. Let's get this arm. This guy. Back. This is the effort here. So you're keeping your spine in this position. Shoulder blade pulls it this way. Here. Reach. So as this reaches out this way, this arm pulls up to create space. Good. And then I get a little extra. Yes. Terrific. Trying as best you can to maintain a pelvic tuck. And then just keep trying to go, even if it's millimeters, reaching more and more and more with those arms. And if you're doing this right and we were to go deeper into this, we should be able to palpate exactly on the rib that we're working here and feel space. Yeah, that's it, exactly. Good. Keep just living there, whatever you're doing that way. That's fantastic. Good. Hold for another 20 seconds.
There we go.
Steven, look at my hand over here. There you go. Just to your chin. 10 seconds. 5, 4, 3, 2, slowly come out of that. Okay, before we do the other side, pop up. Feel any different in regards to your breathing? Did that aggravate anything
Tiny bit.
on the low back? Yeah.
But once I got into like a good position.
Did anyone feel specifically something creating space?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
Where we were pushing on the back,
Where I was pushing on the back?
where that was, like kind of below the shoulder.
Yep.
I just felt it on the side.
Yeah, totally fair. Like,
But I honestly feel it like in the hip too. I guess it's just
yeah, there is.
my hip, isn't it?
Well, there's the problem of the physical demand of this exercise, which the value of doing this bare minimum is just like building up the physical capacity to eventually get into it. Like that may be just the restriction.
90% of those.
Yeah, it's 90% of
Building
it.
the strength to hold the posture.
Yeah.
Honestly.
Yeah, it really is. The English translation of Eldoa is loads, which the S stands for stretching / strengthening. Because it might just be you need to get stronger at holding the posture before we can really create the space. But it might be you're into it well enough and you can feel some space being created, which, exactly your point, for what we were doing is around here. Around there. And if I'm palpating and I was able to feel that create space, especially in that moment where you got a little extra reach. It should feel like there's a little bit more freedom on that side, maybe a little bit more opportunity to expand your ribs and breathe as well. So, with that in mind, let's do the other side. Figure out which side you just did.
I'm all out of sorts here with this.
If you're starting to get a little loopy in the brain from this, that's very common. So, once you get your legs set, go ahead and tilt the body over. Go to that as far as you reasonably can. Then let's go arm forward. Start the reach there. Before you bring the upper arm in, as you reach, are we rotating through the spine or is it just the shoulder blade projecting forward? Then once you've got that, let's get our other arm overhead. Terrific. So from here, this should be a little bit more familiar just having practiced it on the other side. Hold the posture, reach through arm number one, reach through arm number two, and reach out through the leg of the straight leg. You have to give yourself a quick rest just to accommodate cramping. That's fine. Just get back into it when you can.
That's it. Play with those.
You try and just, even if it's millimeters, I put a little bit more every time.
Think of
You
those
can't
3
try
points
it,
you have.
so we're going to try to breathe.
And again, as you exhale, push through all 3 simultaneously. Forward, up, there you go. Now hold it. Don't drop it. Breathe in. Hold the space. Expand.
Just breathe and work, y'all. Got another 15 seconds and then we're done. 10.
Reach a little bit more. Try to fight it with the breath.
5, 4, 3, 2, slowly relax. All right. Yeah, that's really fatiguing. Like you just did some hard work. That's rib elbows. They are very challenging. But your body is all water as well. That's pretty common too. Again, with Eldoas, done really well. If you get real foggy up here, that's very common. I hope that with the rib Eldoa, even it being your first time exposure, on at least one side you were able to feel something happening in the ribs, in the back side of the rib here. Is that yes, no, maybe?
I think it's just kind of like open